Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Idalia, I go by Annie, and today I'm going to be bringing a video about how we homeschool and how we go about accrediting homeschooling in Mexico. So homeschooling is not a thing, like it's not legal or illegal. It's not something that's officially like within the law system. So therefore, there's no way of getting papers. You know, like back in the States, how you can like enroll your kids in homeschool and the state knows about it. Like they keep track of, the kids that are being like homeschooled. And that's not the case in Mexico because it's not under the legal system. There's no way of knowing who's homeschooling and who's not. And this is actually something that just recently started in Mexico, like not even that long ago. A few people just got together online, mostly around like big cities, which is where you see homeschooling the most. And they started creating groups and stuff like that. And they started this movement where they wanted to homeschool their kids. But it's not a big thing. It's like a, growing thing in Mexico. And it gets more common every day. And then with the pandemic, I think a lot of people are just going for it or whatever, but it wasn't a thing. And I remember looking into it a few years back. I was, sending my kids to a private school at the time. We've tried both the public and the private, schools in Mexico. And I will make a separate video on that, sharing our experiences and the good and the bad and all that, in my opinion. But a few years back, I did, feel the need to look into homeschooling because my youngest son was having a hard time in school. I really wanted to help him. So I started using American curriculums, and I realized that they stuck a lot more than the books that we were getting in the public school system, because even private schools still need to, go by the the state's guidelines, and they do see the same things, you know what I mean? So I did use these books, but I would kind of just break it down in the way that they taught us in school back in the States. I would just simplify it, and he started like picking up quick, and I was like, man, maybe this is the way. So we went ahead and looked into it. I started, adding all these groups, and there's this woman named Marta Rebolledo. Please follow her if you are interested. Ella, su preescolar, and just I'm gonna link them down below so you can look them up. But they're, the people that are like ahead of this movement, and they went about, telling us how we could homeschool our kids and get their school papers. Because again, it's not something that you can just go enroll. Like you can just go up to this, school and be like, hey, I'm homeschooling my kid. Like, how do I let the state know? There's no way of doing that. And because of that, there's no way of getting your school papers. So she's like, listen, there's a few ways you can do this. Basically, look, there's a lot of like online academies that you can pay, but they are a little expensive. Not a little, a lot. They're like private schools. I mean, you pay a lot of money. But they will give you like their, report card, and like have them in this, and school them. Like they'll give you the papers, that they're accredited schools, I guess you could say. But they're foreign schools. So your kid would be still learning with like a foreign school. So that was one option. And the next option which was the easiest one for everybody else that didn't want to pay a lot of money, or that didn't have the money, or that just didn't want to go through another system. Because at the end of the day, these academies will give you like their, curriculums. And it's not a free way of doing homeschool. You're still under another system, and that's what we didn't want. We wanted the freedom to be able to learn as I felt fit at the time. And it was scary at first, I'm not gonna lie, because nobody really does that, especially here. Like, I got a lot of weird looks, I'm not gonna lie. People were like, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, listen, when it comes to raising your kids and knowing what's best for them, only you know. So if you are certain that you want to homeschool, you're gonna find a way to get those school papers, right? So that's what I did. And she let us know about this program that they initially made for adults. It's still for adults. It's called Instituto Nacional para la Educación de los Adultos. Aquí en Tamaulipas cambia un poco de nacional a tamaulipeco. Instituto Tamaulipeco para la Educación de los Adultos. Creo que así se llama. So this institute, or this program, is a federal program. It's made for adults that either never went to school and they just want to learn how to read and write or whatever, or for adults that for whatever reason lost their school papers. Mexico is just different in the way that they do things. They give out a certificate or a diploma for every level of education. It's not like in the States. Like in the States, you get a diploma until you finish high school, right? So that's kind of how it works. Here, it's not like that. Like here, after, finishing elementary, you get a certificate of completion. And then when you finish middle school, which would be your secundaria, you get a certificate, of completion for secundaria. So because that's how the system works, a lot of adults end up just either not finishing primaria or secundaria, or they lose their papers, or, in a lot of cases, this program is even for deportees. And they actually have a stand at the aduana and the places where they're getting deported, letting them know that they provide this program that can help them get their school papers, because these like school papers and certificates of completion, que se llaman certificados de primaria, certificado de secundaria, and then certificado de prepa, right? Eventually, like high school. They're needed to work. So this is a big thing here. Like anywhere you apply, they're gonna ask for your certificado de primaria, certificado de secundaria. That's just how it is. So because it's a requirement, they see themselves in the need to have these papers. And since many don't, what they do is they go to INEA and they take a test. Sometimes it's like a single test. And, most of the times they pass it and then they get their certificado, right? So they can go on about and like working or whatever it is that they want to, use it for. But INEA actually came up with this program for children after the age of 10, where they help your kids like get their school papers as well. That you don't have to wait until you're 15 and older, which was initially how it was. Because it was focused on adults, kids, 15 or older could go there and like finish. If they hadn't finished, take that test or like get ready for the test, because they also have like tutors, like que se les llaman asesores. I think that's the word, right? Like they're like tutors, or like they guide you through it, right? Like they guide you through it, and they help you pass this test, right? So you can get your certificate. And a lot of people need help. A lot of kids, dropouts or whatever, they go up there and they get the help that they need in order for them to do this. But again, they created a program called, I think it's called MEVyT or something, 1014. This program, 1014, is the one that the homeschooling community led all of us that were interested in know that this is, the route that we could take in order to get these school papers for our kids. They were like, look, if you want to, homeschool from kindergarten all the way until they're 10, you're in the freedom to do so. But as soon as they turn 10, go enroll them at ITEA and have them, and use this program so they can get their certificate of completion for elementary. Middle school, INEA does provide this same service for middle schoolers and up. But as far as like younger kids, they didn't do that back then. Well, now they do. And this video is about that. I'm going to take you guys to the place, to INEA. It works like this. Like they give you, I'm going to throw the vlogs in there in a second so you can kind of see how the process goes and like what's required and all that. They give you like these cajitas. Oh snap, wait. So this is one. Dice leer y escribir. Y trae como que diferentes libros. I think I took them out because my son was working on them, pero trae su diccionario. Trae otros libros y unos libros todavía más grandes. Son como 12, creo que son 12. I think they're like 12 and 12 módulos. I think they're like coursework. I don't know how you could say that. But it takes about a year or so to finish this program to get certified. By this time, your kid, most of the time, most homeschooling kids already know how to read, write, count, and the very basics. But a lot of kids don't. a lot of the people that use this program and the reason why it was actually created, like it wasn't created for homeschoolers. It was created for kids that are in disadvantage, and we have to remember that this is still a thing in Mexico. Like a lot of kids still have a hard time, getting to school, or there's a lot of places in Mexico, like out in the countryside or something, that they don't have enough schools or they don't have teachers, and a lot of kids are getting they get left out. So this program's like great about reaching out to every single kid in Mexico and make sure that no one is left without an education. So this is initially for them, but it's also for us. Like, we've made use of that. There did come a point where I think they found out about like us doing this, and they didn't oppose to it. They were just like, they still didn't make it legal, but they allowed us to do this. So I realized this now that I went up there, because they were like, look, just, when I asked for the requirements, and they were like, just bring, your kid's school, their birth certificate, I think an ID from like just one of the parents, and their last report card. And the reason why they do this is because instead of doing like the 12 steps, like the 12 books or coursework that is required to finally, having like your certificate, they save you all that work, and they'll be like, well, if your kid was like in 5th grade and they only had 1 year to finish, because here elementary's from like 1st to 6th grade. So like, let's say your kid only needed 1 more year, they'll just give them like that little bit so they can go ahead and take the test. And from what I understood, they like, or like if your kid is like really young, like maybe mine, they do start you off from like the very beginning. Or I don't know, I think they do like an evaluation test, which is what they were doing when we went up there, and then they're going to do another one. And then based on that, they're going to decide how many books they give them. But as far as now, we got the 2 basic ones for reading and math. And they have you work on those for like a whole month. There's not a time limit to what your kid is supposed to do at a time. Like, you can take all the time in the world. Nobody's going to pressure you. Nobody's gonna pressure your kid. You take your time doing it. But after they finish like each book, they go up to the INEA and they take a test, and then they move on to the next level and so on until they're able to finish. I hope I'm making myself understood, because I know it can be a little complicated. I'm already getting like the sun's already coming out. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning right now. Okay, so I had to like move a little bit because the sun was like hitting really hard. But I did get asked like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of homeschooling? Okay, so the advantages would be that you have the freedom to school your kid as you please and focus on what you feel is important. I would say that it's no different than, why people homeschool all over the world. People have their own personal reasons to do so. So you're going to, have the advantages that you want out of them, right? As far as like education for your kids. And the disadvantages would be that, your kids do need to see more kids. And as far as us, even when I wasn't like, homeschooling my youngest, I've always had my kids enrolled in something. Like, they've done music classes, I've tried to put them like in sports, but my kids don't like sports. And I hate that, and they're boys, and I'll never understand. But they're just not like into it. And they've taken like just different type of, just everything that's cultural or whatever, like summer this, summer that, like I throw them in everything. And with homeschooling, it's no different. Like, I try to have my kid and just everything that I, run into that the city is doing. So you can go about, having them like, socialize and stuff with other kids through that. But in Mexico, honestly, man, kids here are like all about going outside and playing. So we do have little neighbors that come over all the time. They're always running around, or they're riding bikes, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. So my son gets a lot of that, even though he's not in school. Like, he doesn't feel like he's missing out on anything because he gets enough playtime outside with the little neighbors. But it may be an issue for you. So consider all these things before you just like pull your kid out of school. I personally haven't known of deportee families doing this program, just because most of them just crossed them over to like, you know, the other side, like to Texas or wherever it is that they live, and they just school them there, or they have money to pay for private schools. We went that route, and we ain't going there again. I don't think so. I don't know yet. I still don't know if we're gonna go back to that. But as of now, that's just how we're going about it. But I hope I answered everyone's questions, and man, if you know, let me know. I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities, and I hope this comes in handy. And I wish you guys the best in this school year, whether you're homeschooling or you're sending your kids to school in Mexico, or like however it is that you're doing. I wish you guys like the best school year, and you guys stay blessed. If you like this video, you can subscribe. And I hope that it was helpful. I want to see a Mexican school. Miren, les voy a enseñar los requisitos. This is just a random school. Acta de nacimiento original y copia, CURP al 200%, eso te lo hacen en una papelería, cartilla de vacunación, credencial de lector de ambos padres, comprobante de domicilio, CURP de ambos padres al 200%, y ahí donde dice primero, segundo y tercero, así se maneja aquí. Allá no me acuerdo ya ni siquiera cómo se maneja, pero ahorita ya están otra vez inscribiendo a los niños, aunque no va a ser, like, they're not going to actually come to school. It's going to be online, but so that's why a lot of people are not enrolling them. But yes, I had this kid once come from the States. He's like a son of a family member, and he was like, why are schools so colorful here? I'm like, I don't know, but you'll see that a lot of the schools tienen, están como pintadas. Miren, esa es una primaria. La que les enseñé ahorita era un kinder. Y esa es una primaria. A ver si me puedo acercar ahorita para que vean igual los requisitos, pero creo que son los mismos. Este es el frente del kinder. So you can get an idea. So right now I'm actually coming there. This place is called ITEA or INEA. This is where you can come and get your credencial de lector, your ID. But this is also the place that certifies la primaria de los niños, like the elementary, right? So I'm gonna get some info because my son's birthday is tomorrow, and it's already time to enroll him. So you can homeschool. You just have to, you're gonna need, their documents. So this place is able to do that. Like, I'm gonna ask, is there still like Christmas stuff going on here? Hola, buenos días. Creo que son días. Venía a preguntar sobre el programa 10-14. ¿Lo siguen teniendo? Sí. Quería informes porque mañana cumple mi niño los 10 años y quería ya inscribirlo. ¿Qué necesito traer?
Es acta de nacimiento.
Acta de nacimiento. CURP.
Pero también la boleta.
Ok, muy bien.
Acta de nacimiento, CURP y la boleta.
Ok.
Copia de credencial de lector del papá o de la mamá.
Ok, ¿nada más de uno de nosotros o de ambos?
No más de uno.
Nada más de uno, ok. ¿Y con eso cómo funciona? ¿Le dan unos libros o...?
Mire, cada mes se hacen exámenes, hay jornadas de exámenes diagnósticos.
Ok.
Él como el 10-14 nomás le van a dar son 3 exámenes para primaria, le van a dar nomás uno.
Ok.
Pero posiblemente si trae boleta ya nomás lo vamos a escribir y lo metemos por libros.
Por libros.
Le hacen una equivalencia del tercer año del sistema escolarizado al programa de nosotros.
Ok.
Entonces le dan una revalidación y pues ya le dicen cuántos libros le faltan.
Ah, eso está excelente. No sabía que funcionaba así.
Y nosotros trabajamos por libros, por módulos.
Ah, ok.
Entonces para estudiar la primaria necesita usar 12 libros.
12. Son 12 libros. Todo el programa 10-14.
Sí.
Ok, muy bien.
Entonces ahorita no sé cuántos le revaliden por la boleta.
Ok,
Entonces,
muy
el
bien.
sistema le revalida y luego ya le dice, no, pues nomás le faltan tantos libros. Ellos como es un programa especial, van por etapas. Etapa 1, etapa 2, etapa 3. Entonces tienen que cubrir cada etapa para ir pasando de etapas.
Ok, entonces, ¿dónde estaría revalidando él? ¿Aquí lo tengo que traer?
Sí, trae
Sí.
toda la papelería, entonces nosotros lo damos de alta, entonces el sistema nos dice, no, pues él ya nomás, a él puede presentar diagnóstico o tiene que ir ya por los libros. Entonces ya les hablamos a las personas, ¿sabes qué? Él va a cursar estos libros, se los damos, los libros, se los lleva para su casa, los estudia. Y cuando hay exámenes, porque cada mes hay 2 semanas cuando hay exámenes nada más.
Cada mes hay 2
Cada mes, sí.
Ok.
Como ahorita se acabó el domingo, ya la jornada, son jornadas que le dicen.
Ok,
Se
jornadas.
acabó el domingo y ya hasta el siguiente mes.
Entonces el primer paso es traerle la papelería y ya después de eso usted me dice a cuántos libros le van a faltar, ¿verdad? Para
Así es.
completar. Y ya de ahí lo citan cada mes
Así es.
para venir a presentar el examen. Ok, bueno, entonces como ya mañana cumple los 10, ya mañana lo traigo nada más la papelería, él no tiene que venir, ¿verdad? ¿O sí?
Sí. Tiene que firmarme un registro.
Ah, bueno.
Tengo que tomar una foto.
Ok, muy
Mira,
bien.
yo no vengo mañana, vengo hasta mañana es miércoles, ¿verdad?
Ajá.
Vengo hasta el jueves.
Entonces me vengo el jueves mejor.
Sí, si quieres,
Ah, bueno. Ah, ok, esos son los libros.
sí, este es un libro que él tiene que cursar, este ya nos vamos mejor. Él lo tiene que cursar.
Muy bien.
Este libro, lo va leyendo él, lo va llevando de la mano.
Ok, muy bien. Y ahí ya trae todo lo que es español, matemáticas y así, ¿verdad?
Sí, pero como le digo, como son módulos, por ejemplo, este módulo es de como civismo. Habla de cómo vivir mejor, cómo convivir mejor en la sociedad. Pues.
Ah, bueno.
Pero tenemos libros de español,
Ajá.
leer, escribir, este es un libro de español.
Ok.
Que también le vamos él tiene que cursarlo. Este es el material. El libro del adulto es el libro del muchachito, ya sea muchachito o sea adulto.
Ok.
Entonces aquí estoy todo.
¿Y cuánto le dan para acabar uno de estos?
Pues
el
mire,
mes. No.
No hay límite de tiempo.
No hay límite de tiempo. Ok.
Es según como él se desarrolle. Si el día del examen él le hablo, o sea que ya está, ahí va a haber examen, ya está listo para los 2 exámenes, no, porque sí. Le ponemos siempre le vamos a dar 2 libros.
Ok.
Entonces, no, pues nomás terminó uno. Bueno, le ponemos el examen del que había terminado.
Ah, muy
Dice,
bien.
no, pues tengo los 2 terminados, le ponemos el examen de los 2.
Ok, está muy bien. Entonces.
Ahí le van.
Ah, bueno, ok, está muy bien. Muchas gracias. Entonces nos vemos el jueves.
Si Dios quiere.
Muy amable, gracias.
Que le vaya
Con permiso.
Propio. Entonces ya le daríamos un módulo diversificado. Que puede hablar de las drogas, o puede hablar de ser joven, algo así. Yo la fase 2 tiene que hacer todo esto. Pues, hay que leer la antología, hay que leerla. Todo es para que...
Bueno, por si vives aquí en Nuevo Laredo, andas por aquí, mira. Esta es la Reynosa y Morelia. Y estamos casi llegando allá a las monjas, lo que le llaman las monjas. Para allá, para aquel lado está Soriana, Reforma y tarara.